Emma was a kind-hearted girl living in a small mountain town where everyone knew one another. Her life revolved around the majestic mountains surrounding her home. Places she had grown up exploring and where she knew every trail and rock by heart. She loved hiking and the peace that nature brought her. But more than anything, she loved helping others. Though she didn't have much, her generous heart made her a beloved figure in the community. Accompanying Emma on her adventures was Scout, her loyal dog with brown fur and intelligent eyes. Scout wasn't just a companion, he was her protector. Always alert and faithful to Emma. Far away in a bustling city, Lucas, the son of a billionaire, led a life entirely different from Emma's. Raised in luxury, Lucas felt suffocated by the heavy expectations of his wealthy family. Everyone around him judged him by the size of his inheritance. And he had never felt truly free. One day, he decided to escape his opulent life and set out on a solo hiking trip in a remote mountain area, hoping that the wilderness would help him rediscover himself. However, Lucas's journey quickly turned into a nightmare. Unfamiliar with the rugged terrain, he slipped on a wet rock and fell into a small ravine. Severely injured. His leg was bleeding, and he was unable to stand. His phone was broken, and any hope of rescue seemed miles away. Pain shot through his body, and fear began to creep into his mind as he lay helpless and alone, accompanied only by the sound of the wind rustling through the leaves. Not far away, Emma and Scout were walking along a familiar trail. To Scout, it was just another day. But suddenly, he stopped, his ears perking up and nose sniffing the air. Emma noticed the change in Scout's behavior and asked, "What is it?" "Scout, did you hear something?" Scout barked once, his sharp eyes fixed on a dense area of brush. Emma's intuition told her something was wrong. "All right. Lead the way," she said. And Scout quickly guided her through the shrubs and over slippery rocks. Within minutes, Emma spotted Lucas lying motionless in the ravine. She rushed to him, realizing he was still breathing but seriously hurt. Blood stained his pants from a wound on his leg, and his face was pale. "Hey! Can you hear me?" Emma gently shook Lucas, and he opened his eyes weakly to look at her. I fell," he whispered painfully. Emma quickly assessed his injuries, and using her knowledge of first aid from years of hiking, she stabilized the wound, using her jacket to tie a makeshift bandage. With the wound stabilized, Emma knew she had to get Lucas off the mountain as soon as possible. But the steep and rugged terrain made the task daunting. "I'll get you down the mountain," she told him. "But you have to stay awake." "All right." Lucas, though weak, nodded. Emma carefully helped him to his feet, letting him lean on her shoulders, while Scout led the way as if understanding the gravity of the situation. The journey down the mountain was grueling. Every step Lucas took was painful. But he couldn't help admiring Emma's strength. This petite girl, with steady hands and determined eyes, seemed unfazed by the challenge. As Emma supported Lucas, she kept talking to keep his spirits up. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lucas," he replied shortly. "And yours?" "Emma," she said with a smile. "And this is Scout, my trusty partner." Their small conversations made the time pass a little quicker. And despite the pain, Lucas felt a sense of comfort. He couldn't believe that in this remote wilderness, a seemingly ordinary girl had become his savior. To Lucas, Emma wasn't just kind, she was an embodiment of determination and compassion, qualities he had never seen in his world of luxury. After hours of effort, They finally reached a main road where Emma flagged down help. As Lucas was lifted into the rescue vehicle, he grabbed Emma's hand. His eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you. I owe you my life," Lucas said. His voice weak but sincere. Emma shook her head. "Don't say that. Anyone would have done the same." But Lucas knew not everyone could have done what Emma did. Scout sat beside Emma, wagging his tail as he watched the rescue vehicle drive away. Emma stood there, hoping Lucas would recover quickly, unaware that this encounter would forever change both their lives. After the arduous rescue, Emma brought Lucas back to her small, cozy cabin nestled in the mountains. The cabin was modest, with everything Emma needed: a small fireplace, a few handmade wooden chairs, and a simple bed. Despite his exhaustion and aching body, Lucas couldn't help but marvel at the simple beauty and peace of the place. This was a world completely different from the grand mansions and luxurious comforts he was accustomed to. Emma gently helped Lucas onto the bed, carefully checking his injured leg, and said softly, "You need to rest. I'll take care of you." In the days that followed, Emma devoted herself to Lucas's care. She cooked simple but nourishing meals, cleaned and dressed his wounds, and ensured he was as comfortable as possible. Lucas was astonished by her selflessness and the sacrifices she made for someone she barely knew. He quietly observed Emma. From the way she spoke gently to Scout, the way she started the fire, to the way she constantly asked if he needed anything else. All these little things made Lucas realize something he'd never felt before: the warmth of a genuine life. Emma, in turn, began to see Lucas in a different light. Despite his polished appearance and sharp features, Lucas wasn't arrogant or aloof. Instead, he was consistently polite. His eyes filled with gratitude and humility. Their conversation started with brief exchanges, like, "Are you getting used to this place?" or "Do you need anything else?" But as Lucas gradually recovered, their talks grew deeper. They shared their lives, their values, and even their hidden fears, things they hadn't told anyone before. Lucas chose not to reveal that he was the son of a billionaire. He feared that the truth would create a distance between him and Emma, a distance he didn't want. Instead, he spoke about the pressures he had faced, about feeling lost in a world where everything seemed preordained. Emma listened with gentle but perceptive eyes, as though she could truly understand. She told him about her simple life, about her mornings hiking with Scout, her love for the tranquility of nature, and how she found happiness in small things. Scout, as if sensing the unique connection developing between Emma and Lucas, became an important bridge between them. Every morning, when Emma went out to gather firewood or tend to her small vegetable garden, Scout would trot over to Lucas, nuzzling his hand as if to encourage him. Lucas began spending time playing with Scout, throwing him a small ball or stroking his brown fur. Each time Emma saw Lucas and Scout together, she couldn't help but smile. "Scout really likes you," she remarked one day. "He's not usually this friendly with strangers." Lucas smiled gently and replied, "I think Scout knows I need help." As time passed, their closeness grew more apparent. Lucas began to feel not only physically healed but also emotionally renewed. The presence of Emma and his bond with Scout brought him a sense of peace he had never known. He realized that the world he had once thought was perfect, with wealth, power, and fame, couldn't compare to the simple but genuine moments he shared with Emma. Emma couldn't deny that she was drawn to Lucas. Beneath his polished exterior was a vulnerable heart. And every time Lucas opened up about the pressures he had faced, Emma felt a deep sense of empathy. She saw in him a sincere soul trying to find the true meaning of life. Much like how she had found meaning in the serenity of the mountains. One evening, as the fire crackled in the hearth and Scout slept peacefully at their feet, Lucas suddenly said, "I haven't felt this comfortable in years." "Thank you, Emma." Emma looked at him, her eyes bright in the firelight. "Sometimes, all we need is a place to belong," she said softly. Lucas didn't reply. But deep down, he knew he had found that place, and the person who made it possible was none other than Emma. When Lucas had recovered enough to walk, he knew his time at Emma's cozy cabin had come to an end. It wasn't an easy decision. Over the past few weeks, Emma and Scout had become an integral part of his life. And the peace they brought him was something Lucas had never experienced before. But he knew he couldn't stay forever. Hiding from reality. One early morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the forest, Lucas sat beside Emma and said softly, "Emma, I think it's time for me to go home." Emma couldn't hide the disappointment in her eyes. She lowered her head, trying to mask her true feelings. "You're much better now. I'm glad you've recovered," she said. Her voice steady but tinged with sadness. Lucas looked at her, knowing she didn't want him to leave. But he also understood he couldn't stay. "Thank you for everything. I'll never forget your kindness," Lucas said, his gaze filled with gratitude. He looked at Scout, gently stroking the loyal dog who had been by their side. "And thank you, Scout. You're a wonderful friend." Before leaving, Lucas promised to stay in touch with Emma. However, he still didn't reveal his true identity as the heir to a billion-dollar corporation. He feared that if Emma knew the truth, it would create an unbridgeable gap between them. As he walked away, Emma stood watching him, her eyes filled with longing. She wasn't sure if this was goodbye forever. In the days that followed, Emma felt conflicted. Her daily routine, morning hikes, evenings by the fire with Scout, continued. But Lucas's presence lingered in her mind. She wondered if their connection had been real or simply a fleeting bond forged in the aftermath of a life-threatening ordeal. She missed his genuine eyes, the stories they shared, and the way he quietly observed her as if trying to memorize every detail. For Lucas, returning to the bustling city was a bittersweet experience. He resumed his role as the heir to a massive corporation, where everything revolved around power, wealth, and cold social engagements. But the things he once thought mattered now felt hollow. Lucas realized he couldn't stop thinking about Emma. The image of her gentle smile, living amidst the majestic mountains and bringing a peace he had never known, was etched in his mind. Lavish parties, expensive possessions, and hollow compliments no longer satisfied Lucas. He saw his life of luxury for what it was, an empty shell. In his heart, he longed for the days spent at Emma's cabin, days that had been challenging yet filled with a sense of purpose. Lucas began to wonder if there was a way to return, not just to the mountains but to Emma herself. One evening, after attending yet another dull event, Lucas sat alone in his office, staring out at the glittering city lights. He picked up a photo from his hiking trip, a picture of the majestic mountain where he had met Emma. His heart ached at the thought of leaving her behind. He knew that if he didn't do something, he would regret it forever. "I can't lose her," Lucas whispered to himself. Determined, Lucas began making plans. He didn't want to return as Lucas, the billionaire heir. He wanted to return as the man Emma had gotten to know. Someone who had found the true meaning of life through her. He asked his assistant to book him a flight to the town near the mountain where Emma lived. This time, he wanted to keep things simple and discreet. When the plane landed, Lucas felt a mix of nervousness and resolve. He rented a car and drove along the winding roads leading to the small village he had left behind not long ago. His heart pounded as he thought about seeing Emma again. He wasn't sure how she would react. But he knew he had to tell her the truth, about himself. About his feelings for her. And about his desire to continue the connection they had started on that mountain. As the car stopped in front of Emma's cabin, Lucas took a deep breath. Scout was the first to notice him. Running out from the door with an excited bark. Emma, hearing Scout, stepped out of the cabin. Her eyes widening in surprise when she saw Lucas. "Lucas? What are you doing here?" she asked. Her voice filled with disbelief. Lucas stepped forward. His eyes sincere. "Emma. I know I left without saying much. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about you," he said. Hesitating for a moment. "I need to tell you the truth." Emma listened quietly as Lucas revealed his true identity. About living under constant pressure and loneliness. And how meeting her had changed his life. "I don't expect you to forgive me for not telling you earlier," he said. His voice low. "But I want you to know that my feelings for you are real. And I want to do whatever it takes to be worthy of them." Emma looked at Lucas. Emotion swelling within her. She didn't know what to say in that moment. But the sincerity in Lucas's eyes told her everything she needed to know. Scout nuzzled against their legs as if offering silent encouragement. And Emma smiled. "Lucas," she said softly. "Thank you for coming back. Let's start again. Right where we left off." After returning to the city and realizing he couldn't forget Emma, Lucas decided to return to her small mountain town. This time, he didn't want to hide his true identity. He knew that for Emma to fully trust and open her heart to him, he had to be honest. Even if it meant risking rejection. Lucas planned a grand romantic gesture to express his love and gratitude to Emma, the woman who had not only saved his life but also forever changed it. Before heading to see Emma, Lucas enlisted Scout's help. He knew that the loyal dog wasn't just Emma's companion but also a deep connection between them. Lucas spent the morning preparing a special surprise. Choosing a simple yet elegant ring he believed would perfectly suit Emma's genuine and down-to-earth personality. He then asked Scout to guide Emma to a special place, a small hill near her cabin where the three of them had once stopped to watch the sunset during Lucas's recovery. As the sun began to set, Lucas arrived at Emma's cabin. Scout, as if fully understanding the plan, ran up to the door, pawing at it to get Emma's attention. Emma stepped out, looking puzzled. "Scout. What's going on?" she asked before spotting Lucas standing there with a gentle smile. "Lucas," she exclaimed. Surprise and slight confusion in her voice. Lucas didn't say anything. Only gestured for her to follow Scout. "Trust me," he said. His eyes full of reassurance. Though unsure what was happening, Emma followed Scout and Lucas along the small trail leading up to the hill. She noticed something different about Lucas that evening, the confidence in his stride and the way he looked at her as if nothing else in the world mattered in that moment. When they reached the top of the hill, Emma was greeted by a breathtaking scene Lucas had prepared. A small table sat amidst the green grass, adorned with wildflowers gathered from the town. Candles flickered softly, blending with the gentle hues of the setting sun, creating an atmosphere of warmth and emotion. Emma was stunned, rendered speechless. "Lucas. What is all this?" she asked softly. Her voice tinged with curiosity. Lucas stepped closer to her, his gaze sincere. "Emma," he began. "I promised to be honest with you. And today I want to keep that promise." He took a deep breath before continuing. I'm Lucas Carter. I'm the heir to a major corporation. And that's the life I was trying to escape when we met. But being with you made me realize that all of that, money, power, luxury, pales in comparison to the sincerity and peace you've brought into my life. Emma stood in silence, her eyes wide with surprise. You're a billionaire's son? She asked, as if struggling to comprehend. Lucas nodded and went on. I know this might make you feel like we come from two completely different worlds. But I want you to know that my feelings for you are real. Emma. You didn't just save my life on that mountain, you showed me what truly matters. You are the reason I want to be a better man. Lucas knelt down, pulling out a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple yet radiant ring that sparkled under the candlelight. Emma. I can't imagine my life without you. Please. Give me the chance to build a life with you, one where we can find happiness in the little things that matter most. Will you marry me? Emma was completely taken aback. She looked at Lucas, at the ring, and then at Scout, who stood nearby wagging his tail as if encouraging her. Her heart swelled with emotion. All the confusion she had initially felt melted away as she looked into Lucas's earnest eyes. Lucas. I don't know what to say, she began, her voice trembling. I always thought what we had was just a fleeting dream. Something that couldn't last. But now I understand that this is real. Love doesn't care about wealth or status. She nodded, tears shimmering in her eyes. Yes. I will, she said, her voice soft but firm. Lucas smiled, his heart bursting with happiness. He slid the ring onto her finger, and they embraced under the sunset, the candlelight flickering around them. Scout barked joyfully, jumping around as if celebrating their happiness. In that moment, both Emma and Lucas knew they had truly found each other, not just as a rescue on the mountain, but as a rescue for their souls. Though they came from different worlds, they understood that true love is the strongest bridge, leading them to a future filled with hope and joy. The mountain where Lucas and Emma first met had now become the setting for the most significant moment of their lives, their wedding. It was a peaceful morning, with gentle sunlight bathing the mountaintop, creating the perfect scene for their special day. Emma, wearing a simple wedding dress made of soft white fabric, walked across the green grass. Lucas, in a sleek suit, stood waiting for her near a small altar adorned with wildflowers gathered from the mountains, true to their honest and down-to-earth nature. Close friends and family surrounded them in an intimate celebration. But the most special guest of all was Scout. Scout, dressed in a small green bow tie, eagerly took on his important role as the ring bearer. The loyal dog seemed to understand the significance of the day, walking proudly with the small box holding the wedding ring secured to his back. As Emma and Lucas exchanged vows, their eyes locked, and no words were needed to convey the depth of their love for each other. From today on, I not only love you but am grateful for you, for saving me, both body and soul, Lucas said, his voice filled with emotion. Emma smiled, her eyes sparkling. I'm also grateful for the day Scout led me to you. Since then, my life has been more meaningful than ever. After their vows, Lucas and Emma exchanged rings, simple but deeply meaningful. Symbols of a love untethered by wealth or status. Scout barked joyfully, as if blessing the couple, making all the guests laugh and clap in delight. After the wedding, Lucas and Emma began their new life together, finding a harmonious balance between their two worlds. They divided their time between the bustling city and their cozy cabin in the mountains. In the city, Lucas continued to manage his family's corporation. But he approached it with a completely different heart and perspective. His connection with Emma and the lessons he learned on the mountain had transformed how he viewed his responsibilities. He became a compassionate leader, focusing on meaningful and sustainable projects. Emma, meanwhile, felt her love and kindness could extend beyond just the people around her. With Lucas's support, she established a charity foundation dedicated to improving forest safety and rescue efforts. Their foundation provided training on survival skills for hikers and funded advanced equipment for local rescue teams. Emma often hosted workshops, sharing her personal experiences and the story of how she met Lucas, inspiring others to cherish and protect the natural world. The time spent at their mountain cabin was what they treasured the most. For Lucas, the cabin was not just a place of peace but a symbol of the love Emma had brought into his life. They spent weekends hiking through the woods, having small picnics, or simply sitting by the fire with Scout, enjoying the tranquility of nature. Scout, now more than ever, was not just a companion but an irreplaceable part of their family. The loyal dog continued to stay by their side, his joy and bond with them a constant reminder of how he had played a key role in bringing them together. One day, as they hiked to the mountaintop where Scout had once found Lucas, they stopped at the very spot where it all began. The three of them stood there, watching the sunset cast its golden glow over the distant town. Lucas held Emma's hand, his gaze filled with deep gratitude. "If it weren't for you and Scout, I don't know where my life would have gone. Your love has changed everything," he said. Emma rested her head on his shoulder, smiling. "And you've shown me that true love transcends distance or background. We found each other in this big, wide world." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Scout let out a soft bark, as if reminding them it was time to head back. Together, they descended the mountain, their steps light but full of meaning, as though every step was a reminder that their lives were now intertwined. Forever grateful for the fateful day they found one another.